Do we need fluoride to prevent cavities?
No. My answer would be no.
Walk us through your journey as a medical professional who was once physically in the streets picketing for water fluoridation.
Oh, you heard that.
To one who actively speaks out against fluoride.
Yeah, I look back at that. It's very humbling. But I like to share that. So I was trained in a school, like we all are as dentists, that really push fluoride, you know, and I never really questioned it because all the people I looked up to, all my mentors, all the dentists, they just said, this is the bee's knees. This is what we need to keep our teeth healthy. And of course, we only saw cherry-picked science, you know, in that environment. So I was super pro fluoride. I happen to live and practice in Portland, Oregon, and we do not have water fluoridation. It's just never passed. And I think it was maybe 2010 or 11, and it was up for vote again. And I was in my pediatric residency, and I was very vocal about the fact that we needed water fluoridation because look at all these kids with cavities coming in. It's rampant. It's the #1 chronic disease in the world. It's an epidemic. And then I had a professor come in who had been to the debate downtown, and he kind of sat down. He looked really just in shock after his experience hearing kind of both sides. And he said, I think you guys all need to hear the other side of the fluoride debate. I had never heard or even understood half of the things they said, and I'm going to go do more research. And so, and he had been super pro fluoride, and it was someone I really looked up to. So I said, what is he talking about? So I started to just do my own due diligence. And I realized, wow, fluoride has a lot of concerns. It's an endocrine disruptor. It can be defined as a neurotoxin. It affects the thyroid. It's antimicrobial, so it's killing good and bad bacteria. You know, what is it doing to brain development? And just since then, there's been so much more science and data coming in about how it is impacting the fetal brain development and the brain development of our children, affecting IQ. Some very great studies. There is a lawsuit. It's a federal lawsuit. All the testimonials have occurred, and we're just waiting for the judge to rule. It literally could be any day. But it was the people versus the EPA. And basically, there's never been any solid, long-term safety studies on water fluoridation. And that's also a medical consent issue as well. So we're mass medicating people without their consent. Now, the thing specifically with water fluoridation, so this is systemic fluoridation, right?
Yeah, you're ingesting it on a regular basis.
So this could also include prescriptions, so fluoride prescriptions that your pediatrician might write for you. We know this is not up for debate. Like even dental schools are teaching this now, that fluoride works topically, not systemically. And what does fluoride do? It makes the tooth more acid resistant. And that is true. It does. But as a functionally minded dentist now, where I'm looking beyond the tooth, what is it doing to the rest of the body? And that's where I think we're really missing the mark in dentistry. We're so blinders up. We're so focused on that technician part where we're just fixing the tooth. We forget there's beyond the tooth, there's the tongue, there's the mouth, there's the child, there's the parents, there's the family, there's the community. So there's a lot of concerns. And so the study that gets spoken about a lot was a prospective study where they followed, I think it was 516 mother-child pairs. It was in Canada. The editor-in-chief of JAMA Pediatrics has done a podcast on this. And essentially, they did urinary analysis of fluoride through each trimester, and they averaged the results. And they found that women who consumed more fluoride, quote unquote, in excessive amounts, but what was normal just through their water and through their food, their children had a 5-point drop in IQ. So they followed these kids until they were 3 or 4 years old. It was mostly with boys. So they really did a great job taking out all the confounding variables. And this study is really well recognized, which is why JAMA Pediatrics reviewed it. And they even said at the end, that's on par with lead, that IQ drop. And so to me, I just think the burden of proof should be on the safety of it, not the opposite. And it's just the dental community is obviously very on board with fluoride. But my argument is prove to me it's safe. Show me the safety data, not the other way around. They're saying, well, show me it's not safe. And I just think we've really mixed that up. And so then you talk about topical fluoride, so in toothpaste. Now, if you're going to use it, I much prefer you use it that way. And just a tiny amount, but you have to make sure your child's spitting. So I wouldn't use it before the age of, ideally like 5 or 6 until they're really good at spitting. But even then, how much is being ingested? How much is being absorbed through the oral mucosa? We know a lot of things are absorbed. Like think of a lot of medications. A lot of our liposomals are taken through the floor of the mouth. And so we don't fully understand what the cumulative effects are. The other issue is I think we're all different. And so some people may do okay with that minor toxic load day in and day out. And some people who maybe are a little more susceptible genetically to environmental toxins, they might not do as well. And so I have concerns with it. I can't look a parent in the eye and with absolute certainty say, yes, this is safe for your child.
Is fluoride even FDA approved as a cavity prevention measure, or is it just an acid?
It's FDA approved. I feel like most dentists don't even know this. It is not FDA approved for cavity prevention. The FDA seems like they're staying out of that whole, those claims. It is approved as a cavity liner, which means you use it underneath a filling, which no one does, by the way. And it's used as a desensitizing agent. So if you have a lot of cold sensitivity, you can use it because it helps with sensitivity, which it does. So it's being used off-label. And fluoride prescriptions are not FDA approved either, and yet they're being prescribed every day. So
Why is the American Dental Association so gung-ho about fluoride?
That's a great question. I don't have the answer to that. I mean, I could give you my snarky thoughts.
Well, it's my brain just goes like, if it's not effective, why are...
Well, it is. It does reduce cavities
because of the acid resistance. Okay. But also...
But I would also say this. I see plenty of cavities are still the number one chronic disease globally in the world, even with fluoride.
Yeah.
And most countries are using fluoride toothpaste. Now, we are one of the only countries to still fluoridate our water.
Yeah, that's just a different...
Many people don't realize that, though. We are one of the last countries to fluoridate our water. I think only 3% of the developed world right now is fluoridating the water. 3%. So, but, okay, so let's just take out the systemic fluoride just topically. Okay, if fluoride toothpaste was the answer, why aren't we seeing more caries reduction? We're actually seeing cavities go up again. Well, the answer is big food. Yeah. I mean, it's our diet. Fluorides cannot compete with our processed food.
I also heard you talk about how fluoride can actually make your teeth more brittle and change the integrity of your enamel crystals.
Yes, the crystalline structure. So fluoride. So we have hydroxyapatite in our teeth. It's calcium and phosphorus crystalline structure. When you add fluoride, it kind of changes that into almost like a Franken tooth, if you will. It becomes fluorapatite, and it is more resistant and durable until it's not. So if you get too much of it, it actually can change the crystalline structure to be more wave-like. So instead of straight crystals, wavy. And that can make it break down more easily. Or there's something called fluorosis that you'll hear of and see.
I have it on my teeth.
Yes, it's very common. They now estimate up to 40 to 60% of teenagers.
What is fluorosis?
So you've gotten too much fluoride during the developmental period of your teeth to the point where it's actually changing the crystalline structure so much it changes the way light reflects off from it. Which can actually make it more brittle in theory. There's mild, moderate, and severe. Mild is usually pretty benign except for aesthetics, although...
But it appears as these bright white spots.
It's bright white, but once it gets more severe, it can be brown, chalky. It kind of looks like hypoplastic enamel, what I spoke of earlier, or like orangey, and the teeth can be very aesthetically challenging, I would say. But if it's doing that to your teeth, that means there's some anomalies in your bone structure too.
When I heard you talking about this on a podcast, I'm like, damn, my bones are probably just as white as my 2 front teeth.
You might have some white spots.
Wow. Okay. So you said our teeth have hydroxyapatite in them.
Yes.
Is hydroxyapatite equivalent to fluoride or even perhaps better than fluoride when it comes to cavity prevention and remineralization?
Yes, the data is showing yes. And there is a lot of attention being thrown at hydroxyapatite right now. But yes, I can speak clinically to its benefits. Clinically, I will tell you anecdotally, my experience is it far outperforms fluoride. I think it's because fluoride is carpet bombing your mouth and impacting your microbiome in a negative way because fluoride is very antimicrobial. Hydroxyapatite does the opposite. It actually can help modulate and create a healthier microbiome balance. So basically it's calcium and phosphorus. It's a mineral-based toothpaste. You'll see more and more about it. It's a little bit of the wild, wild west because we still want to make sure we're providing safe products and safe sourcing. And so you do want to be very mindful about where the hydroxyapatite is coming from and the manufacturing processes, just like anything, just like your supplement. Do you want to get fish oil, from the pharmacy where maybe it's rancid or is it really high quality? So it's the same thing. So there's some consumer education that needs to happen. It's not FDA approved yet. I suspect it will be, but it might be similar to fluoride. They may never approve it for cavity prevention. I think they're just staying away from those claims, but they might approve it for desensitization. The good news is the American Dental Association did approve a CDT code, which is an insurance code, at the first of this year for hydroxyapatite varnish. Weirdly, insurance companies are still mostly denying it. This is the way these codes and insurance works. The system's such a mess. But the point is, if the ADA kind of approved that code, they have seen the science and they are standing behind hydroxyapatite.
Is that like the fluoride bath that we used to do as a kid? When I was a kid, I would get this interesting tray, bubble gum flavored. Why?
It had a lot to do with contact time. So it's a much higher concentration for, usually 1 to 3 minutes. They just wanted it to sit. So it's really sticky. The concern with that is not only the extremely high dose of fluoride, but all the other garbage that is in there. Fluoride varnish, for example, a lot of them have polyurethane derivatives and adhesives and things in it. That's what makes it sticky.
Is this hydroxyapatite varnish that they approved an alternative to those trays?
It would be. Yes. So it's basically the material, instead of being a fluoride-based varnish, it would be a hydroxyapatite-based varnish. But they don't define or specify what other ingredients are in there.
Okay. All right. But at least they're saying I'm approving hydroxyapatite.
They're saying, it's very telling that they've looked at the science and said, yes, this actually does remineralize teeth. And that is part of my protocol at my office, is for small lesions or ones that might be more medium sized. And this is where you really, I don't want you doing this on your own. You need to be working with a dentist, but we have a protocol where we use nanohydroxyapatite. Nanoparticles are just smaller, so they really get into those defects and that demineralization in those tubules better than you'll hear microhydroxyapatite. So we use a nanohydroxyapatite toothpaste and we use ozone oil. And so ozone kills the bacteria, the pathogens. It will kill some good bacteria too, so we want to limit its use, but it doesn't overwhelm the commensals. It really tends to target gram-positive anaerobes. So that's a protocol that we use at our office, as well as cleaning up the diet. And then we want to make sure we're feeding the good bacteria, so the prebiotics, and maybe we'll throw in some probiotics and to the mix as well. But we see a lot of cavity arrest, reversal, and healing with these protocols. So I'm avoiding so many fillings and sedation and anesthesia visits with my patients.
So people can feel good about using a nanohydroxyapatite toothpaste as a complete alternative for a fluoride
yes.
toothpaste.
My children are 8 and 10. They have never used fluoride. We've only used hydroxyapatite. I personally haven't used fluoride now for almost 25 years. I've never have had a cavity because, again, it's not about the medicament. It's about the root cause. So what is really creating the imbalance? It's your diet, it's your breathing, it's your gut health, it's your microbiome. It's not what's in your toothpaste. Now, unfortunately, we need a remineralizing toothpaste, most of us, because of our modern diet. You know, so I do suggest that. But again, this is anecdotal, but I will tell you the kids at my office who use specifically nanohydroxyapatite toothpaste that is made from a quality manufacturing facility, they are healthier. They are healthier. And many of their parents come in and even notice the difference. Their teeth are brighter, whiter, less plaque. They just get really great dental checkups. So, but the data is there to support it too. And there's more research and more clinical trials, and there's more comparative analyses and things coming out too. We're really kind of in the infancy of this movement. And so I'm excited to see what the next few years bring.